Salutations, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of PTV FC. This is our 22nd episode, and so much has happened in the world of football since the last time we were here on this Zoom call. And I want to talk to you guys, my amazing co-hosts of Jimmy Bliss, Ryan Johnston. Before we get into it, how are you both doing today?
Louie, I'm great. It's back. It's good to be back on. I missed last episode, but I'm happy to be back. Happy to be back with the boys talking some soccer.
Yeah, me too, Ryan. Very excited to get back in the booth and talk some soccer with the two of you. But Louie, more importantly, how are you doing today? We never seem to ask the hosts how they're doing.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. That made me happy. I was doing good until I messed up a run through and said today was Friday, and today is not actually Friday. I don't know what day it is. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I know it's not Friday. But thank you, Jimmy. I'm doing good. And Brian, we did not replace you. It was just a one-show absence. Do not worry. I joked about it, but you have a permanent spot here on PTV FC as long as I have a say in the episode, which I will for the next few years. So you're all good. But going into soccer now, big news, probably the biggest news in the entire soccer world is the fact that Ole Gunnar Solskjær is not there as the manager of the Red Devils, Jimmy's Red Devils, that is. The Red Devils lost 4-1 at the hands of Watford, and that was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I think that's the saying. And so he has been sacked, and now Michael Carrick is going to take over for these next few games. And Jimmy, I'll start with you since you are a supporter. Give me your thoughts, give me a rundown, whatever's going through your mind with everything that's going on right now.
So I'm not going to be as negative as a lot of Manchester United fans have been over the past few days with the firing of Ole Gunnar Solskjær. I think that his sacking was inevitable since the middle of October when Manchester United started struggling, and then Man United wanted to keep hold of him for another few weeks, see if he could potentially right the ship, but he wasn't able to do that. So I'm going to take this a little bit more optimistically than most other people did. He did some great things at the club, but he reached a ceiling. He brought the club from outside of Champions League football to consistent Champions League football for the past 2.5 seasons. And just to take a look at his first starting 11 versus his last starting 11, there are only a few players that played in both games, should I say. And so the 5-1 win against Cardiff on December 22nd, 2018 was his first game. And his starting 11 was David De Gea, Ashley Young, Victor Lindelof, Phil Jones, and Luke Shaw with the back five. Midfield three of Ander Herrera, Nemanja Matic, and Paul Pogba. Front three of Lingard, Rashford, and Martial. Not a great starting 11, at least in my opinion. That's definitely like a Europa League starting 11 as far as I'm concerned. Whereas his last game against Watford, the 4-1 loss, David De Gea in net, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw makes it the back five. McTominay and Nemanja Matic were the two holding midfielders. Jadon Sancho, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, and Cristiano Ronaldo, the cherry on top as the starting 11. And those two starting 11s couldn't be more far apart in terms of quality. And a lot of it was due to his recruitment and his willingness to go out there and extend his neck to try to bring in a lot of these bigger players to the club, like Cristiano Ronaldo, like Jadon Sancho, Harry Maguire, who had a great Euros before he transferred to Manchester United. He did have some really good moments, including upsetting PSG in the Champions League, the 9-0 victory a season ago against Southampton. And Man United also had the longest away winning run in Premier League history, which just snapped earlier this season. So he's done a lot right in his tenure, but overall, it kind of fizzled out over the past few weeks, and this was the right move. And for now, Man U needs to look at a Manchester United quality manager, a top 7 to 10 manager in the world to replace him. So I would say someone like a Zinedine Zidane and Mauricio Pochettino, or I wouldn't be too upset if Luis Enrique or Bernardo Valverde became the next Manchester United manager. But for now, Michael Carrick is the interim manager, and we'll see how long he stays in charge before Manchester United decides to appoint someone else to be their caretaker, or if they decide to have someone take over as their permanent manager before the season ends.
Yeah, I appreciate Jimmy not completely slandering Ole Gunnar Solskjær, because I feel like a lot of Man United fans are, and that's actually what I expected from him too, because it's just seems to be the trend right now, and he just doesn't deserve that, because a few years ago they were touting him as a savior after the failures of Jose Mourinho and Louis van Gaal at Man United. They were just all over Ole Gunnar Solskjær, and now that he's struggled and his time is up there, they have completely jumped ship on him. And it's not even like he was that bad there. He had a 54% win percentage there. And like Jimmy said, he brought them back to a Champions League squad. They were basically Arsenal before Ole Gunnar Solskjær came there. And now they're not Arsenal. So that is an accomplishment in and of itself. I will find a way to bring up Arsenal on anything that we talk about. All right, believe it. But I don't think his legacy should be this season. Okay, he's done so much for them and signed so many good players. They have such a good young team over there at Man United, and it's just not fair to him to really just slander his name like many fans have. That being said, if they can get a manager the quality of Mauricio Pochettino or Zinedine Zidane, then yes, sack him by all means. Go right ahead and sack him. And with how heavily Pochettino is being linked, it's seeming like it could happen. It's really seeming like it could happen. I don't want to get Jimmy's hopes up, but he's being very, very heavily linked. Valverde is also being linked a bit. Zidane is, I feel like he's leaning more towards the PSG job because if Pochettino leaves, then that job will be open. He'll slot in there. But if they can get Mauricio Pochettino, I think that it'll be worth it for them. I think Pochettino is a bit overrated as a manager personally, but I think he'll be a better manager for them than Ole Gunnar was. So I appreciate what Ole Gunnar has done for Man United, even not as a Man United fan. I think it's time for an upgrade.
And I agree with what both of you guys said in terms of it's just kind of unfortunate. Well, I'm not gonna like slander his name. It just the sequence of events is unfortunate. Like you said, Ryan, he had a winning record with Manchester United. He brought them to a Champions League. And then like recently though, this year more so than the previous years because of what I'm about to say, the signing Ronaldo got overshadowed by this big story of the fans wanting him gone and his questionable decision making. I mean, this should have been a time where it's Ronaldo's like farewell, maybe not farewell tour, but Ronaldo went back to his old club. He's back in the Premier League. He's back with Manchester United. You know, him and the gang are all back at it again, like doing good. But instead, we're talking about this headline, this continuation of extended headline of Ole out, instead of like Manchester United's play or Cristiano Ronaldo for that matter, which I thought is what was going to happen. And it's the series of events that unfolded that led to this kind of unfortunate. And I'm not gonna say I feel bad for him, but I do feel a little bit for Ole. Because at first you're right, he was liked. I don't remember when you said it, but he was liked, and now he's being kicked to the curb. That's quite unfortunate. And I don't know what they're going to do with manager going forward though, because I think Michael Carrick is going to be the guy, like the intern for right now. And then I heard that they might get a caretaker for the rest of the season, and then at the end of the season, then decide, okay, now we're going to go out and get the manager that we really, really want to lead us forward. But if they decide to do that, right? I was listening to NBC's podcast today, earlier today actually, about this topic with Rebecca Lowe, Tim Howard, and Robbie, and they're great actually, really good listen. They almost as good as us, you know what I mean? But yeah, they were talking about this too, and Tim Howard actually brought up a good point. I got to shout him out. He said that if they do wait until the end of the season to get a new manager, then they have to be in the Champions League, or else they're not going to get one of those high quality managers that you've been talking about. And that's a great point, because like the Manchester United manager job is probably one of the biggest and best manager jobs in the world of football. And so them not being in the Champions League, I think it will limit their search going forward. So that'll be something to watch for the rest of the season. Are they going to be able to play in the Champions League? Because if they do, then I think they have free reign at almost anyone they can just throw money at, and they will hopefully, for Manchester United, flock to fill the role, right? But if they are not in a Champions League position and they decide to wait till the end of the year to really start their search, or at least getting towards the end of the year, right? If they don't get a caretaker directly after Carrick, then that could be a problem going forward. So that is something I'm going to keep an eye on. I don't really know how that's going to play out. I guess that we'll see though as time progresses, and we'll see as the hierarchy in Manchester United plays out. I guess we'll get to see what actually is going to happen. So that will be interesting though. But I am host today, thankfully, and I get to decide what we talk about here on PTV FC. And I have decided that we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about West Ham Now, I know we talked about them last episode, but I just want to kind of reiterate, they are fourth in the Premier League. Unfortunately, lost to Wolves. It was a 1-0 away loss, though, so it wasn't awful. Before then, though, they had a 7-game unbeaten streak across all competitions. And they are currently first in the Europa League right now. Well, first in their group in the Europa League right now. So I'm going to leave the floor open to you, Ryan. Just any thoughts, comments, concerns, anything you want to talk about regarding West Ham?
The fact that they're unbeaten is expected. The only team that I've heard of before that is Dynamo Zagreb. So, yeah, I mean, congrats to them for being first in their group. I guess at least they're in Europa League competition.
Then, yeah, let me ask you this, the more specific question. How far do you think they'll go in the Europa League then?
Oh, wow. I guess it depends on who they draw outside of after the group stages. Definitely past the first round, unless they get like Napoli or something like that, or Lyon in the first round, which is very unlikely. Is that I don't even know if that's possible in the draw, but I would not guess that. So yeah, I'd say that at least third round in the Europa League with how they've been playing. And they've been killing in the Premier League too. I mean, that was a big 3-2 win against Liverpool. Unfortunately, they got them mad and they beat us next game 4-0. But they did beat Liverpool. They handed Liverpool, I believe, their first loss of the season. So big win for West Ham right there. Michael Antonio just been killing it all season long. Pablo Fornals, he also has 4 goals. Antonio has 6 goals and 3 assists. They've been playing really well. And one thing that really excites me for this team is if they can get Jesse Lingard back, they will be very, very dangerous. Now, will that still happen now that Ole Gunnar is gone? That is I think if you're a West Ham fan, that should be a big worry for you right now because he was almost a shoo-in before Ole Gunnar left. And now he could stay. He could opt to stay. He might get more playing time under a different manager. He proved that he could do last season with West Ham United. He might opt to stay at the bigger club now that he has a bit more of authority under his belt, almost a bit more of a resume under him. So I'm a bit concerned for them on that regard. Other than that, they've been playing great so far. But I really, for them, I wish that they could get Jesse Lingard because he was such a good fit with them last season. And if they couldn't get him moving forward, that would really stink for him.
And that's where I think that Manchester United really missed the boat there, Ryan, is Jesse Lingard's contract is up at the conclusion of this season. So he'll be a free agent to sign with wherever he decides to go. But Manchester United were holding out for like 45, 50 million for Jesse Lingard in the summer, just to lose him for free probably this upcoming summer. Or West Ham can even sign him on a pre-contract agreement in just 2 months' time. So I don't really understand the Man United board with what they're doing with Jesse Lingard, and they've been offering him underwhelming wages. He's also not been playing as much as he should be. I think if West Ham if they jump the gun and they sign him in January, definitely a top 5 finish. They'll push top 4. I don't know if they'll necessarily get top 4, but they'll be pushing top 4 for sure with Jesse Lingard. Apart from that, Europa League, I think that depending on who drops out of the Champions League into the Europa League, and we'll be talking about the Champions League in just a little bit on this podcast, I think that has a big influence as to how West Ham can do this season in the Europa League. Because if some of these big dogs start losing in the Champions League and they don't get through their group, maybe they could take down West Ham and West Ham won't win the Europa League. But right now, from what I've seen, I think West Ham is probably the Europa League favorite as far as what I've seen thus far. I've seen Leicester been underwhelming this year in the Europa League and in the Premier League. Napoli hasn't been much better. All these Italian teams haven't been great in the Europa League this season. I forget what Spanish team is in the Europa League this season, but I don't think they're really making headway either. So it's really just West Ham that I'm looking at right now as really the top dog in the Europa League. I could see them easily taking it home. As far as the Premier League, their next 5 games is really going to decide if they are going to be challenging for the top 4 or not. They're fourth in the Premier League. They're 3 points back of Liverpool in third. They're 6 points back of Chelsea, who are in first, and they have a 3-point lead over Arsenal fourth. But their next 5 games are as follows. They're at Manchester City, who's in second place. They host Brighton, who's in ninth. They play Chelsea, who's in first. They're in Burnley, who are 18th, which is obviously the easiest of the 5 games. And they're at Arsenal to round out that top 5. Those are a very, very, very tough 5 games that West Ham have to play. If they're able to play well in these games and they're able to win 3 of the games, potentially get a draw, maybe a loss, then you could see me turn much more into a West Ham believer, just like Louie. But if they stumble a little bit against these teams, I don't think that they're going to get top 4. I think that 5 or 6 is probably the best shot for them if they're able to stumble within these next 5 games.
Well, to your point, Jimmy, they've shown that they can beat pretty good sides. They beat Tottenham. They also beat Liverpool, like you said. So, yes, obviously.
But they didn't beat Manchester United, did they, Louie?
But yeah, they did not. But that's okay. Manchester United doesn't have a manager right now. Anyway, they've shown that they can compete with the big teams, the quality sides. So I'm not worried. I mean, yeah, like I was saying though, the games are must win because it's all teams relatively that are around their position in the Premier League right now. So it's almost like a divisional game in American football where it's like, oh, you have to win the divisional games because you're competing with those teams to be first in the division. It's kind of like the same thing. I mean, if they played a bunch of teams from the bottom of the table, I would argue that the team in 18th, I don't remember who you said, that win would not be as big as a win against one of the top 4 or 5 teams, like against Arsenal. The win against Arsenal it's only 3 points, but it's definitely a more impressive and more influential 3 points than if you beat a team that's going to get relegated, in my opinion. So I'm not really worried about that. And Lingard, I totally forgot about the fact that he very well could stay at Manchester United. That is a great point that you bring up for West Ham's sake. I hope he does not. He did a great job last year too, as you know, as I'm sure you guys know, because you remember how much I hyped him up. So that is interesting. I had not thought about that until you just said it now, Ryan. So that was a good point from you. But also what I was going to say though was in the Europa League, I think that they also can go far. I'm going to echo what you said now as well. I think anywhere, if they finish less than the semis, I think it's a bust. That's because I have high expectations for them. I also said on previous episodes that they're going to play in European competition, whether that be Champions or Europa League again next year. So that means either winning the Europa League or finishing in a high enough position to play in the Champions League or the Europa League. And so I think that they are fully capable of doing that, especially if they get Jesse Lingard. And so I am going to keep believing that. I'm going to keep saying that because I genuinely think that could happen. But we talked about the Europa League. I'm going to skip ahead now to the big boys in the Champions League. We had some things happen today, actually, and I'll have to come back to you guys with the updates from today. But we have some big games tomorrow as well. We'll see Dortmund taking on Sporting FC, Man City at PSG, Atletico versus Milan, and Liverpool versus Porto. So what do you guys think would be the best matchup or most that you look for, most anticipated matchup that you'll be looking forward to?
So tomorrow, the most anticipated matchup that I'm going to be looking forward to, I think it's got to be Manchester City and PSG. I think that Manchester City is one of, if not the best team in the world at the moment. PSG right there as well. I think that these two teams in the same group, it's just a blessing to have Pep Guardiola and that Manchester City team that's firing on all cylinders right now against a team with Kylian Mbappe, Neymar, and Lionel Messi leading the line. Those 3 can pretty much beat anyone by themselves. And Sergio Ramos looks like he's finally going to be making his PSG debut as well. Sneaky big news there from Paris. I think the rest of the games, they'll be pretty solid. I think Liverpool-Porto will be a little bit big, but apart from that, I'm not in love with any of the other games that'll be kicking off tomorrow. But I would say that I'm gonna think that Manchester City is gonna beat PSG tomorrow. I know PSG beat Man City earlier in the Champions League, but I think that Pep's going to make some good adjustments, and I think he's going to figure out how to slow down the front three, and he's going to be able to control possession and eventually score a few more goals than PSG. And I'm going to say they're going to win by a score of 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know if you can choose another game without being unbiased because it's literally two of the three best teams in the world playing each other in the group stage right there. I'd say Bayern is probably still my pick for the best team in the world because they're just such a well-oiled machine, even though they did lose in the Bundesliga last weekend. I'm not worried about that. They're just so good. Yeah, I don't think you can really choose any other game. Sorry, Louie. I know you'll be tuning into that Dortmund game, but it's just not as appealing to me. Dortmund versus Sporting, I believe. Yeah, it should be all right. I think the Atletico Milan game has interesting implications for their group because their whole group is playing that game that day. So if Liverpool beats Porto and Atletico beats Milan, then their places will switch up because Porto's currently second, Atletico's currently third. So cool. I'm still going with Man City versus PSG. Like these are the two of the three best teams in the world. Like you can't choose anyone else. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would agree with you guys. I do think that the Atletico versus Milan game does have some upside, though. I'll say like upside is like a fantasy football term, I guess, but I'm gonna use it here for soccer. Because I think it could be a relatively good game to watch, and it's two sides who are not quite league leaders in their respective leagues, but nevertheless, they're still going to be fighting for the final few points in the group stage to see who gets that third spot, which is so important in the Champions League. So I obviously it's Man City versus PSG. Like who doesn't want to watch Messi versus De Bruyne? You know, like plus other players like Kylian Mbappe and all the other good young players. But Atletico versus Milan, I do think that we can get a good game out of those two, and we'll see. It could be a reflection of how they will finish in the either La Liga or Serie A for both of those teams. Dortmund taking on Sporting, I expect a win from Dortmund. I don't think it obviously won't be as firepower as Man City versus PSG for sure, but so it's definitely Man City versus PSG. But real quickly, before we wrap up this episode, I just want to talk about Borussia Dortmund for a little bit. They are just 1 point out of first place after 12 match days. And I'm going to say, contrary to Joe's beliefs, I do not think the Bundesliga is a farmers league. But Bayern, they are 10 times in a row, 10 consecutive Bundesliga champions, which is counterintuitive to the sentence I just said. But regardless, do you think this is the year that Borussia Dortmund can break this 10-year consecutive winning streak from Bayern Munich? Jimmy, I'll start with you.
I think if there is a year that Dortmund can defeat Bayern, it has to be this year. But I just don't see it happening, Louis. I'm sorry. I don't think Dortmund has the firepower that they need to unseat this Bayern Munich team. And I know Bayern Munich has looked very different this year. They have a new manager in Julian Nagelsmann, and they have a few losses in the league, which early on, like it is right now, is a little bit uncharacteristic, and it always takes time to adjust to a new system, going from Hansi Flick's system to Julian Nagelsmann's system. But I still think that with the pure talent on the field, Bayern is just better than Dortmund. Haaland is a world-class player, so is Marco Reus. But apart from those two, I don't really see anyone on the Dortmund team that scares me too much. I know Jude Bellingham's having a good year, but I think he's a little bit overhyped just because he's an English youngster, and I feel like every English youngster gets overhyped beyond belief. Their defense, the Dortmund defense, hasn't been good this year. They've given up 1.5 goals per game in the Bundesliga, and when you're trying to take on a Bayern side, that's just not good enough. When Bayern is giving up, I believe it's just 1 goal per game, but they've scored 40 goals on the league season thus far. And they have a guy up front who Ryan is very keen on, Robert Lewandowski, who's just banging in goals. He actually scored a bicycle kick earlier today as we're recording on Tuesday evening against Dynamo Kiev. Absolutely wonderful bicycle kick goal as the Ballon d'Or gets released. And on Monday, he's just making one last statement to say, hey, I'm still here. But I do think, going back to my original point, Dortmund, I think that they're runners up this year in the Bundesliga. Something crazy would have to happen for Bayern not to win it this year.
Yeah, Louie, I'm sorry, buddy. Love you. It's not going to happen. They've scored 41 goals in 12 matches. Like, it's just ridiculous. That is just so insane. More than 3 goals a game. Lewandowski has 14 goals already this season. Like, come on. That's just in the Bundesliga. He has 14 goals. Come on. You're telling me he's not the best player in the world. He also has like 6 assists. Like, he's going insane. No, I like I said before, I think Bayern is the best team in the world. They've already beaten Dortmund in the DFL Super Cup, I believe, in August. They have a big game coming up against each other on December 4th, but I think that's going to be a big test for Dortmund, really. I don't see Bayern losing that game. Maybe I'm just a bit biased because it is Bayern, and I'm also a big Robert Lewandowski guy, but I don't see it happening this year, especially with Haaland. He could leave in the winter. Like, that is a possibility. I don't see it happening, but so many clubs are linked with him. Like, Man City wants him really badly. Liverpool really likes him. He could go to Man City. These are teams that have the funds to buy him. I wouldn't be surprised if he was in a light blue jersey come January. So I don't think it's going to be the season for him. I honestly don't know if anyone is going to be catching up with Bayern anytime soon, just because they buy all the good players from all the other German teams. It's just like everyone feeds Bayern Bundesliga trophies almost. So I don't see it happening this year. I don't see it happening in the near future.
So I had forgot to recap all of the big games that happened today, and I promised that I would. So I'm going to do that right now before I get into my point. Manchester United beat Villarreal, which is kind of ironic. Bayern, like you said, won today as well. They won 2-1. Chelsea beat Juve 4-0 today. Barcelona tied with Benfica 0-0. Sevilla beat Wolfsburg 2-0. And that's all of the relatively big games for today. So, but back to Borussia Dortmund, I can give the perspective of a Borussia Dortmund fan, which happens almost every year for the last 10 years. What happens is, in about the third quarter of the season, Bayern Munich plays poorly, and so it gives Borussia Dortmund a chance to come back and gain some points on Bayern Munich. And then that last quarter of the season, Bayern Munich just plays so well, and it just crushes any hope because they just win games and they seem to go undefeated and they always play super, super well. And so Borussia Dortmund is always left at second or even lower. And Bayern Munich for the last 9-10 years has done that, and they have won the Bundesliga doing that. But I will say this, there is a reason to have a little bit of hope, though. The best young player in the world, not named Kylian Mbappe, is currently not playing right now. He has not been playing for the last 4 games, and Borussia Dortmund has found ways to win those games. Youngster Donnell Malin, who I did not know before the season started who he was. I didn't even know if Dortmund had a backup striker, but they do, and he's been playing okay. He notched an assist and also a goal in the 4 games in which Haaland has missed so far. So he looked fine. I mean, he's able to move the ball when he needs to, but he's also able to make good runs and get in behind the defense. So who knows? It's hard. Like I said, it's hard to get hope because of what I just explained. But nevertheless, if there is a year, Jimmy, it is this year for sure. Despite Bayern Munich being the bigger club, being the better club on paper. But again, football is not played on paper. But that'll do it for this show, as that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of PTV FC. For my amazing co-hosts of Ryan Johnston and Jimmy Bliss, our producers, Mateus Bueno and Cooper Tennant, and the big man, Christian Gardner, for making this show possible. Remember, we're talking all things soccer all year round. Till next time.